Well, now that the neck has been carved, we're ready to move on to the final piece of building the guitar. There's still steps to go afterwards, but as far as actual building, we're on the final step, and that's the bridge. So I'm going to take this ebony blank. I will make sure I have a straight edge right here. Then I'll square it off on either end or one of the ends. Then I'll use this template. And with this, it's got all the dimensions that I'll need. It's got the holes lined up in the exact proper position. And then I'll also glue it to the blank and take a router and flush trim it. And the objective is to make it look like this. This is a completed, should have been a completed blank until I got carried away and cut the saddle slot wider than it was supposed to be. But my objective today is to build a bridge and not plow out a saddle slot like that. So let's get started. First thing we have to do is check the angle and where the straight edge comes across the top, and see if we're at the right thickness. I've positioned this blank, and I've already run it through my sander, my drum sander, a couple of times to start to get it down to the proper height. And the objective here, what you're looking for, is when you place a straight edge on the fretboard and you slide up, you want to just clear the blank by about a millimeter and a half. Let's take a look where we are. And I am right at 1 millimeter. So I think I'm gonna run it back through the drum sander and take just a tiny bit off and get it down to the final thickness. This is pretty straight to begin with. I'm going to hit it real quick with a block plane just to make sure I've got a square edge here. Oh yeah. So I've glued I've cut the blank to the proper length. I've used some double stick tape, and I've taped it to the template, and now I'm going to go to the bandsaw and cut it close to those lines. While it's taped to the template, I'm going to run it through my router with a top bearing. The bearing will run against the template, and we'll flush trim this. So. getting ready to drill the pin holes, but so I don't tear up my template, I'm not going to drill with this in place. What I'm going to do is pull this. This is a 3/16 brad point bit. I'm going to pull it down and punch it, and that's going to leave a little mark where I'll come back, remove the template, and then drill my holes. So I removed the template and drilled the holes, and now I've got to radius the bottom of this. And remember, the top of the guitar, it's a small radius, but there is a radius. So I've made this, I took a piece of MDF, and it's a 30-foot radius for the bridge. And so this is exaggerated, but it's radius this way and this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some chalk, and I'm going to chalk this up. And this is, of course, to match the top of the guitar. And of course, because the crown is right here, it's taken off in the middle, so we'll slowly work it till we get the sides done here. So now I'm going to taper the wings on this, and I've put some tape here to mark how far I want to go. And I'm going to do it on my high-tech sanding machine here, much like we did. It's the same method that I used on the headstock of the neck of the guitar. Well, that was a lot of sanding, and it's hot. It's February, I think today's the 20th. February 20 in North Texas, and it was 80 degrees the high today, and it's 70 something degrees in my shop right now. So there was a lot of sanding. But here's where I am. So I've radiused it down. I've done the taper, and it's down to about just shy of 3 millimeters here. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I will radius from here to here, and we'll try to match, or to somewhat match, the radius of the fretboard. It won't be an exact match. It'll just give me a reference. It won't be a real pronounced radius, but that's the next step. I've got these wings tapered and to the final thickness. I'll hit it one more time to get it down to the final thickness. But now what I'm going to do is try and put a slight radius between these 2 points here. This is a jig that I made to cut the saddle slot. When I first started learning how to build guitars, I bought Robbie O'Brien's online course, and I learned just about everything that I know from his courses. Of course, since then I've picked up a lot of other tips, how to fine tune things on the internet, but it was Robbie O'Brien's course that really taught me the fundamentals of guitar building. And this jig is his design. This is not my own design. But what it is, it's got two rails here, right here and here, to hold the router. I have a 3 32nd bit on there. This shim right here it's not square. You can see it angles down that way, and that way the router will run straight, but it's going to cut it at an angle because the bridge is bolted down at an angle. And these are stop blocks that I've put on here to stop the router right at the edge of this blue tape. So I'm fixing to start cutting the saddle slot. So I've cut the saddle slot. The chamfers are done. The wings have been tapered. The back has been rounded over. There's been a slight radius put on the top. And now I went ahead and put the saddle bone. I cut it to size, so that slips right in there. Of course, there's a lot more of this will come off. And now what I'm going to do is spend a lot of time sanding this, get all the scratch marks out of it, get it nice and smooth and pretty, and ready to move on. I've spent the last almost an hour sanding this. I started with 80 grit, and I went all the way up to 1200 grit, and it is smooth as a piece of glass. I worked diligently to make sure there were any of these little saw marks that were still there, that I got all of those out. So now the final thing, I've cleaned it real well. I'm going to come in here with a little bit of Johnson's paste wax. My, oh my. That is pretty. here's a better look at the bridge with that paste wax on there. It really brings out the natural color. You can see here, this is the unfinished side. What a difference. A lot of sanding and some wax does. Well, the building part is completed. Thank goodness. That part is over. There's still a lot to be done, but the actual construction of the guitar is completed. So again, if you like these videos, if you have learned anything, hit the like button and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go have a Kool-Aid and a cigar.